so much attention is given to us, the men folk.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when I talk about, and through the 56 years that I've been doing what I do with regards to functional strength and mobility, and then training other people and particularly women, and I've really seen that women go through additional crap often. I mean,
Right.
it takes women have to really, if men have to really soldier up and put on their big boy pants and decide they're going to do this thing, you know what I mean? Or whatever, transform themselves, then women have to do that 5 times more.
Yeah.
If I'm making sense. Am I making
You
sense?
are. You are. Yeah. You
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. So that's really one of the impetuses for me wanting to talk with you. Having obviously being a part of your community and has been part of it, seeing what you guys stand for, um, which I really hold in high value. It's a significant part of what I value in life, because I know for a fact, having been a working broke person most of my life, raising kids and a family, and then having, making decent money as a working person, I know this that you can have all the money in the world and you know you can have a huge gap in your life.
Yep.
And so anyway, that was one of the significant reasons for me wanting to talk with you, and then the opportunity just to get to meet you, and so that's really it. And I'm so glad you showed up. I appreciate it. And so I'm just going to say for everybody that any and everybody that might watch this, I'm talking with Karen Falkenberg.
Falkenberg. Yep.
Falkenberg.
Hmm.
Karen Falkenberg. Okay. And Karen, you want to say the name of your community for people
I will. So our business is named
or your business?
TigersEYE Life. And on the Skool platform, which is a social media platform, our community name is Health for a Limitless Future. So
Okay.
people can find us there.
Yes. And I highly recommend uh, you guys visit Karen's community. It has a lot of energy and it's growing, uh, you know, almost each day, it seems like right
Mhm.
now. And that's very, very nice. I'm very happy to see that. And your community has a lot of great information, a lot of great energy, a lot of great things that bring people in. Because I noticed that when I go your community, that there's always, some people in there engaged,
Right.
and that's what you want.
That's right. And we were so excited to join School. Ryan McQueen, who's my business partner, and he's my homie. We met each other 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and we have been Velcro together probably from minute one. And over the time of us working together, I'll tell you a little bit more about my backstory because, when you talk about perimenopause and menopause, um, he and I, at some point, decided we should have a business together. So once we met each other, and I'll describe that in a minute, it wasn't long after that where we were like, we could really help as a duo. We could help people in lots of ways because we see a gap in the opportunities, particularly for women, but also middle-aged men.
Hmm.
So the clientele that
Excuse
we
me.
work with are all ages, from young men who are, in D1 sports and they want particular training to people that are, some people I don't work with that Ryan does that are in their 90s, right?
Hmm.
So it's the gamut, but really who we particularly focus on are people who are accomplished professionals. They're over the age of 45-ish. They have come to the point in their life where they've said, I've had my responsibilities with my kids, with my elder care, with my career, with my business, whatever. And the balance of emphasis on all those things compared to how much I'm spending time on myself is just not in alignment with what I need it to be. And whether
Right.
there's a doctor scare, or they want to get back into rec league and they want to just start playing again, or whatever the things are,
Hmm.
they realize I really want to get reacquainted with who I am and what I can be. And for some people, they've never actually done that because they may have missed the opportunity to play sports or be on teams or
Right.
do gymnastics or whatever when they were younger. And so they're not at the point where they think that they're like, hell no, chair yoga is not where I'm at right now. I'm not ready for chair yoga. But
Yeah.
they're also not ready to say, I want to wear a bikini on the beach, or I want to be
Right.
a gym bro, right? And look super, super buff.
Right.
I'm just like in this space where I don't know how to get what I need out of where it's available. So we saw that as a real opportunity, Brian and I, to help people. And Dawn, I'm sure you have known people like this, like we have, where they've like worked really hard, and they get to some pinnacle moment in their life, and then they get a heart attack, or they get a
Yeah.
stroke, right? Or they now can't walk because they have never tended to getting strong enough in their glutes for their knees to work. So now they're in a knee replacement program. And I mean, it's all the things, right? So whatever it is, it's like, how can I have worked this hard and with this much purpose? And now I'm kind of sidelined. It
Hmm.
just feels unfair, right? And so we
Oh,
said,
yeah.
oh, we can definitely support people like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the way Ryan and I met was so I'll just say right now, I am at the moment of our recording of this, which is what, February 4th,
Hmm.
2026. In a couple of months, in September of this year, I will be 69.
Get the hell out of here.
No, I will be 69. I'm 68, almost a half right now. So if
No way.
anybody's watching, then they would see what I look like. And I'm looking at the smile on your face, and it's a fact. It's a straight up fact.
I thought you were maybe 55.
No,
I thought, at first I was going to say, I think she might be in her early 50s. I'm not sure.
yeah, no,
You're killing it, girl. You're killing it.
yeah. But here's what happened to me. So I have been through perimenopause and well past menopause. I mean, that's long in the back history of having reached that point. I don't know how many of your listeners know, but menopause is not like a number that, other than what they'll say is, if it's 12 months after your last menstrual cycle, then we say you are in menopause. So even as you're in it, you don't even realize you're in it until you pass that 12-month period. So that was a long time ago. But
Hmm.
when I was every so let me say this little story this way. So every year on my birth month, I pick a personal development goal that I work on. And some
Hmm.
of them are short and some are long, and they're quite varied. But the year that I turned 60,
Hmm.
I wanted to learn how to do a pull-up. And I did a bunch of stuff.
That's boss.
But look on YouTube, and dude, there were like only 3 videos of women who were over 60 doing pull-ups. And I'm like, what the
Right?
hell? This
Right?
is crazy. This is
Yeah, I know.
crazy. So, I I'm kind of nerdy, right? So I'm going on looking on YouTube, and then I'm talking to a neighbor who has turned his garage into a CrossFit gym, and doing all this stuff. Never quite got there, but I had the intention. And then at 61, I was in a really serious car accident.
I
Um,
read about that. Yeah, you've talked about
yeah,
that.
yep. So for your listeners to hear just a very brief story of it, I was rear-ended so hard at a stoplight that I had a concussion bad enough that 3 times I failed the NFL concussion test, and I was
Wow.
under the care of a brain doctor for literally 6 months. And
Wow.
so at one point in that rehab, was a couple months in, I was learning to walk again. I mean, I even had those kind of
What?
rehab where you stand in, like in your house where you have one wall and another wall, and you've got the corner, right?
Right.
I had to stand in the corner so that the walls were right here. And I had to practice lifting one leg up and balancing. And then I
Wow.
had the other leg. And then I had to practice lifting one leg up with my eyes closed. It was just so much to learn to walk again. And I was in this, development of getting better, but it wasn't enough. And so one morning after a Pilates workout that I had gone to, and it was a reformer one, so they finally cleared me to get on the reformer equipment. But I was like, this is just not enough. And I got to get back to that goal of doing a pull up. So I
Hmm.
go into this skanky gym, if Brian's listening to this ever, sorry, dude. But it's the kind it's not, there's no zhuzh to it at all, right? It's just it literally is a bro gym. It's so smelly, it's
Hmm.
really well used. Everybody's beefy. I have never been dissuaded by most of anything. So I didn't have any like concern, angst, or whatever. I actually didn't even know about this gym when I was driving. It's this weird thing that my Google just told me to go there, and I didn't even see the gym from the street. So
Hmm.
all of that to set up to say there was no predetermined place for me to go other than I was just somehow ended up in this gym. And as I talked to a trainer, I was interested. I was heading out the door, and my BFF, homie business partner Ryan, walks in, and we just struck up a conversation. And I was there probably 2 hours with him, and we all of a sudden were just like connected souls. And
Wow.
and so he offered that he could train me, and it that was really the impetus for where I am today. So at one point he said, "What's your first name?" And I said, "Show up." And he said, "What's your middle name?" I said, "Determined." So so that's the kind of spirit I like to bring to the work. But I was introduced to strength training in a way that, as a woman who grew up in the 70s, never really had any opportunity to experience, right? And I
Hmm.
thought to myself, and I describe it this way, it's almost like if you've ever read the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And
Hmm.
if there's one point where if you go up into the upstairs and there's the wardrobe, which for those of us who are not old enough to know what that means, that's like a place where clothes are. You open the
Right.
door into the wardrobe, and
Right.
actually there's a secret door and you go
Right.
into Narnia, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I said, this for me, this experience is like going into Narnia. Like it opened my eyes to things I had never even known were potentially even possible.
Hmm.
And so at first I said, I'm going to be your best advertisement. And then I decided to increase the number of times I was working out with him. And I said, hey, can you put me on your client list? I want to sign up for an extra day per week for 20 years. And he said, let's make it 40 years and we'll also hang out. So we knew that, I mean, we're just such good friends. So that is really what got me to where I was. And then when COVID happened, we said, let's take this online. Let's see what we can do. It's really time to move this business to a business that we both contribute to. And so
Hmm.
that's how that all happened. But I was going to show you, if I can share my screen, I'm going to show you sort of three spots in my life. So all of these are me.
Okay. Oh, look, 113 pounds. Look at you at 28.
Yeah. So as an
You're-
endurance athlete, I had my weight was really, in some ways, almost anorexic, even though I
yeah,
wasn't anorexic, but an endurance athlete, just really takes all of their muscle off of them because it's
sure.
so metabolically costly, right?
It is.
So I looked like that, but I also had this like sort of dark side to it. Like I knew that if I ran 10 miles, I was sort of compensating for me potentially eating something I shouldn't have been eating, right? So I was using my workouts in a way to also do more than just fuel my desire to be athletic and to enjoy the feeling of accomplishment. I was also using it in that way. So that's the dark side of that left
Yeah.
side photo. And
Hmm.
then here you see me at 65, which I said was a few years ago. I weigh less than that right now. Um, and not that weight
Who?
is necessarily that critical for health, but in fact, it is. And I have some pretty strong opinions about how much people weigh and whether they can be healthy at any age or not, right? And then the middle one is there I was at 59. So I had officially been declared in menopause at 55. And this was before my car accident where I ended up adding about 10 more pounds because of my brain injury.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was just, yeah,
Well,
I've been through it all.
well, I saw, in watching the video that you did, uh, gosh, a few days ago, and you were standing in your gym, and I noticed you're really solidly built. You know, you got really muscular, strong legs. And
Yeah.
so you don't look like you're tiny, You look like you've got a real strong structure you've created.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that's true. And as you and I both know, some of that comes from genetics. And my
Well,
dad
sure.
was
Yeah.
you could, when I look back, I didn't know that then, but I look back and like my calves look just like his calves, right? My sisters look just like mine,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that whole thing, right? But in fact, as people look at me now, and for those that might be looking, right, I'll just tip this down a little bit. This is what I look like at my age. I'm not like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So a lot of women are like, oh God, I don't want to be lifting weights. It's going to make me look.
Right.
No,
I
no,
know it's a misconception, and and a fallacy that is promoted, and that narrative is, I think, perpetrated by the patriarchal influence that is that holds media and a narrative, the narrative to women particularly, uh, because men, too many men, most men, unfortunately, are afraid of women who just look quote unquote regular and their power. So for a woman to look strong and confident is even more intimidating. So there's been this narrative that, oh, if women, you know, strength train for just good, solid, functional strength, that somehow they're going to be transformed into looking like a man with
right.
muscles. And that's
Impossible.
and that's, that's a fallacy. But
Right.
anyway, well, listen, I your story is incredible. And the fact that you came back from that kind of injury is really a testimony to some serious desire and intentionality. Um, did you wanna? I had a few questions. I sent them to you. I don't know if you spent any time going over them. Did you wanna, were you open for maybe just me asking you a couple of these?
I am, Don, I am an open book, and
Okay.
there's very little that I would say, oh, don't ask me that, or I won't tell you about that. I'm just, I show up as me. I show up authentically, and sometimes the F word pops out, and sometimes all
Oh,
these
that's
other words.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
So,
you know, I, yeah, I have to watch because I definitely cuss too much sometimes, but oh well.
oh well, yeah, that's all good.
But really, what I want to kind of before we get ask anything too deep, not that you actually covered a couple of things that are pretty personal, but just kind of practical stuff. I think that everybody would be interested in. Certainly at 69, because that's something I expressed being 71. And that is your kind of your having to do with your weekly rhythm, that training, rest, recovery thing. And
Mhm.
just maybe you could walk us through your typical week for you, how you balance strength training, movement, rest, and recovery.
That's a great question. And I'll start off by the rest and recovery part because I think in the United States, we have this sort of predilection to say, I'll rest when I'm dead, I'll sleep when I'm dead,
Yeah,
and I have to earn my rest. If you haven't worked hard
I
enough, you
know.
don't
That's
deserve to
such
rest.
BS.
Such BS. Yeah. And so, what we have helped our clients to understand is rest is not a reward for what you've just done, but rest is to prepare you for what's to come. Anybody who's a solid athlete knows that they have skills in rest because it's a part of the whole package of being successful. And if you don't sleep well, not only do you not perform well, but your brain you have really deleterious effects on your brain if you're
Oh,
not getting
amen to
enough
that.
rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me personally, what I'll say is and I have given up lots of stuff to do, but I have in the last several years become a very hard wall stop in the evenings for everything so that I can get myself enough rest. So what really hinders me is being on screens. So I don't go to movies. I don't watch TV. I'm not scrolling on my phone. None of that stuff after 7:30 at night, just full stop. Because I
Mm,
know for me, what happens, I mean, that's just me. And everybody
hmm.
has to kind of figure out for themselves.
Right,
But
right.
I get, it's not so much the like visual stimulus, but it's and I don't have blue light blockers, but I do have red screens on everything. I just find that it's almost like having caffeine for me. So I just have to stop that. And that also means I'm asleep probably by 9 o'clock. So my friends who like to go hang out late, I'm like, sorry, maybe we could do Saturday afternoon or something like that. So there are things that I have had to accept, and they kind of have come around to, and that's okay. But I get up at, quarter to five, 5 o'clock, and I am a chronotype that's an early morning person. So that
Mhm.
is what works for me. I don't would never want anyone to believe that being an early riser is the only way to be, because there's some people that just struggle with that. They just struggle with that. So people have to figure out their own sort of pattern.
Mhm.
But there's that. In terms of my workouts, I do this. So I have heard, and I completely disagree with a lot of young men, young athletes who strength train, who say that you don't need to do cardio because you're getting enough in your workout. And what I would say, at least at my age, is I don't get enough cardio in my workouts to count for my cardiovascular health. And so I'm not trying to do cardio to burn calories. I'm trying to make sure my VO2 max is staying as good as it can possibly be,
Mhm.
that I have endurance in all kinds of ways. So that's why I have a Peloton spin bike there, and I have my rower. And so those are primarily my two choices for cardio, because once I started really doing heavy strength training, running just became less successful for me. My legs are like, what are you doing? I don't want to be running.
Well, have you found that you can actually get both in a training? In other words, have you found that you can actually build strength and cardio at the same time? There are movements that you can do. Ha- Have do you incorporate anything like that in your training? Like, there are movements you can do that, and in fact, will address your strength conditioning and your cardio simultaneously, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, I do. Let's have some, and I'll give an example. So you can get a bang for your buck that way. Like yesterday morning, we have a Tuesday morning group workout, and so I'm rolling out of bed at 10 to 5, and I'm on the screen with our folks, all the Zoom people, right? And we're doing a workout. So I'm only been up for a little while, and we start off with doing a sequence of overhead presses, barbell overhead presses, and thrusters. Well, I can
Ooh,
guarantee you
oh yes. Thrusters
that
alone.
thrusters,
Thrusters will gas you, and it's about strength. Oh my gosh.
right, right,
Oh, you have
yeah,
to find a place in your psyche for that movement, because that movement will humble you. Okay?
straight up, straight
I can't tell you,
up.
when I was a CrossFit athlete, okay, I was a CrossFit athlete from 58 to 62. And when I started doing thrusters, oh my God, I said, what hell is this? You know? That's a wonderful example. And if the audience doesn't know what a thruster is, I'll put an example on here or something when I edit this thing. But oh
Yeah,
my gosh, you were so right on with that.
yeah, yeah, that's right. So there are these sort of magical experiences where you can get all that in once. But what I will say is, because of me wanting to make sure that I am not overextending myself. So we are very careful with progressive overload, with our clients and ourselves, Ryan and I. So there are times when I'm lifting really heavy, but I'm not lifting long enough for me to feel like the cardio that I'm getting from deadlifting 220 pounds is going to really get me all the cardio I want. And I don't know that that's going to necessarily give me the VO2 max training that my heart, my cardiovascular system needs.
Hmm.
So I do that separate. I just make sure that I get some of these, a couple hit sessions per week and a couple of longer endurance cardio. So that's what I do separate from my strength training.
Cool, cool. So how has that rhythm changed as you've moved through midlife? What signals does your body give you now that you pay closer attention to?
Oh, that's a good question. I could say even not from midlife. to now, but from a few years ago to now. And I don't know if this is true of you because you're just a little older than me. But at 61, I felt like I was still 50, right? At 62, I felt like I was 61. And there came at some point, I don't even remember the minute, but I know it was not far back from here where I was like, oh, this is a whole different ball game. I have got to be so dialed in on everything to be able to do all the things I want to do. And, as my clients will say, our clients will say, one of them says, it's me against the clock, literally, when you get to be the age that you and I are. And that for me has made it I don't even negotiate with myself. Like, should I eat that? Maybe I shouldn't eat that. Should I do this? Maybe I shouldn't. I'm like, if this is not going to bring me value, it is not going on in my day.
Yeah, I so relate. I've had to double down um, because at this point, as you know, in life, in your life, like I will think I have rested well.
Hmm.
And because I ate a little too late or something, my body didn't rest as well. There's so many nuances I have to pay closer attention to that I didn't have to pay as close attention to when I was 60, 61. Now,
Right.
granted, I'm not training as a CrossFit athlete, and that's at least 2 or 3 levels above where I'm at right now.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean,
Hmm.
if I attempt to do one of the things that I could do then, I was like, I don't know.
What am I
No,
doing?
thank you. But still, I so connect with that. You have to be so mindful, you know. If I'm
So
gonna, if
mindful.
because I think I'll go in. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I'll go either to my garage or to the gym to do a training, and my body will not deliver.
Age don't play. Age don't play.
You know,
We get to a
so
certain point. Yeah.
yeah. So I totally get that. I totally get that. Uh, and sometimes I have to just think about it because I'm not sure. So what could it be? I mean, because sometimes, you know, you you have to wonder, you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
uh, and sometimes it'll take me a week. Like I'll have a great training 1 week, and the next week or 10 days, it's like, so maintenance mediocre. It's like my body
Mm.
is needing to come back
Recover.
around.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So do you eat for strength?
I do. I do intend to eat for strength. Almost no women that I know, and certainly none that have ever become clients, eat enough protein.
That's true. My
They
wife,
straight up don't.
yeah, my wife learned that. I mean, she's in her going through her challenges and through the menopause challenge, she that has been brought to light. But you are so right. In fact, men don't either. I mean, men maybe have a better awareness of it, but I think you're right. I think you're so right on. So you do eat for strength.
I do. I do. And I try to say, just like when you and I were talking about like what are these activities that bring us value versus things that are going to set us back? This really makes it easier for me to eat with that mindset. Like, is this going to be helpful for me? Um, and not so much is it going to be helpful for me for my athletic goals, but is it just going to be helpful for me to be a healthy person?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that is important. In fact, Ryan and I were talking about that yesterday because I've lost a few pounds. I've lost about 9 pounds in the last few months. I had pneumonia. It was I That's my weak spot there is getting respiratory things. I don't get them very often, but when I get them really bad. And so I lost some pounds there. And then we've just been really busy. And there's times when as you age, I think this is true from the elders that I've seen. Your feeding instinct isn't as great as it was when you were 40 or 50 or 55 or so.
Hmm.
So I know this. I mean, even, you and I both, we both do what we do and we both know what to do, but that doesn't mean we always do what we're We
Hmm.
know it's the right thing. And so I was like, I'm just not eating enough protein. So I was talking to Ryan about this yesterday, and he said, yeah, why don't you start putting some raw eggs in your shakes? So I did that yesterday. I was like, okay, cool. That works great. That works great. And we get eggs from a local farmer. I
Hmm.
have raw milk. So, I feel like I'm really getting high quality nutrients that way, and great protein powders that we choose. But yeah, having enough protein is really a key thing, really a key thing.
Listen, I had to dial into that too. I said, let me think, let me look at how many grams of protein I'm consuming in a day. And because I eat 2 meals a day.
Hmm. I'm
And
kind of the same.
so, um, but it's been that way for a long time. Um, and but so what I said, I'm going to have to be smarter about how I'm consuming my protein. And then I went online and I found a really good protein supplement. It's just high grade whey protein, nothing else.
Oh,
There's
good.
nothing else added into it because you get this protein and it's got these sugars in it and other things. So this is just whey protein, and I'll put it on my cottage cheese and with my blueberries and
Hmm.
or I'll put it in a drink or something, and it really adds. If I feel like I may not make it my grams of protein that I want to consume. So I think that's really important. Absolutely. Um,
Oh, let me interrupt for a second, just for your listeners, if they're not familiar with what is the right amount. What we always adhere to is somewhere between zero point 0.8 and 1 gram of protein per day per pound of your ideal body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, but you want to be at 140 pounds, then you should aim for 140 grams of protein rather than where you are at 150 pounds. So
that's
somewhere
that's
that's,
smart.
yeah.
That's
Hmm.
good information. That's great
Yeah.
information. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I love what you're saying about protein powders. There's been a lot of evidence that so many of them are just full of junk. Some of them have chemicals that shouldn't even be in there, like heavy metals.
Hmm.
A lot of them have additives, and some of these additives are just so bad for your gut. So they make
Hmm.
them these thickeners that go in there, and the thickeners make it feel like it's a milkshake. Okay, cool, but it's just ripping up your gut, and that is just not a good thing. So I 100% agree with you, and we're so careful to make sure that we get really high quality protein, because what if you think about it, if the value is the protein and you're paying for additives, you're just throwing money down
Absolutely.
the drain. Yeah, we just
Absolutely.
pay for the protein.
Absolutely. The protein I use, you don't even taste it. Even if you put it in water, it has no taste.
Hmm.
So absolutely, I totally agree with you. What maybe you could speak to do you use creatine?
I do.
Can
Hmm.
you speak a little bit to that in terms of creatine for women?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to use for a variety of reasons. What I would say is, so you and I both will know this, that creatine is the most highly studied supplement ever. So there's a lot of reasons why we know a lot about it. Number two is your body makes creatine. So it's not like you're putting some
Hmm.
exogenous thing into your body that your body doesn't make already. So you're just helping your body create more of the creatine. You're having your body be in, let me say this differently. It's not making creatine. You're adding creatine to your body when you're already making it on your own. So you're
Hmm.
just leveling up the stores there. So for many years, a lot of the studies on creatine were really about athletic performance and muscle
Hmm.
development. And so we know
Hmm.
that that works that way for sure. Absolutely. But in the last 3 to 5 years, there's been a lot of research on creatine and its impact on bones and on the brain. And so what they say is you want to make sure that you have saturated your muscles with enough creatine so that the extra creatine you take in actually gets across the blood-brain barrier and gets to your brain. But it's supposed to be really helpful for cognition. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
people who say, "Oh, yeah, I love taking that." And so the amount to take, um, is dependent upon what you weigh, but for most women, what we recommend is you start with 5 grams per day. So it's a little scooper. I'm a fan of like putting it in a little bit of water and just shooting it down. It doesn't
Hmm.
really have any flavor. Some people have a little bit of tummy trouble with it. I've never had that. But then I don't ever put supplements other than maybe electrolytes into a large glass and then sip on it. And it's just like, no, just drink it down. So rinse your mouth. You're good to go. You're good to go. But so you want to start at, if you want to just work for a baseline creatine, you want 5 grams per day. And then if you want more out of that, if you want to go to your brain, if you want to go to help build your bone health, you want to increase that to a minimum of 10 grams a day. Or you can, some people even go to 15 or 20 grams a day. I've never
Hmm.
used that much. But you can also divide it into like a morning and an afternoon thing if you want to sort of, spread it out. But Crea Pure is a specific tested creatine that we always tell our clients to look for a supplement that has Crea Pure in it. And so
Hmm.
Muscle Feast is one of the providers of
Hmm.
that, and there's a couple of others. But yeah,
Good to
that's great.
know.
That's
Yeah,
great.
cool. Yeah, a lot of women, and again, I my wife, being someone in the house with me, has really bought into creatine use. Uh, but I think that's something that I'm seeing uh, people in the sciences, specifically women in the sciences, speak more and more, saying, "Hey, women, yes, you should use creatine." uh, the studies are showing for brain health and all kinds of things that you just mentioned. I don't want to, our time is just blown past here. Um, Listen, just I have more stuff that I could ask you, and I know we could be on here for much longer. So maybe if you're open, then, you know, we maybe could do this again. But what, just maybe you could just make a statement um, about the challenges that women face in this journey, making a decision to be functionally strong and mobile, going, past 45 in the middle age and beyond. Challenges that they face that men don't face, and maybe something that they could, hold on to keep them going.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. And what I would say is a big part of what women need to just really be aware of is we have been socialized in a lot of ways. One is to look like that person of when I was 28, you saw on the picture of me, to be as thin as possible, right? And when you're as thin as possible, you don't have adequate muscle. And so that's not the look you're really going for because that's thin, that's not necessarily healthy. And what we know is when you get to be middle age and beyond, you need more muscle tissue on your body.
Hmm.
Another part is you can feel intimidated by, I don't know what to do in the gym. I don't know what's going to work for me. And so to seek out people who have been in your place and who now have figured it out because they can really guide you well. So I don't want to just say I'm the only person like that. There are a lot of women on social media that are like that, but there's that to be aware of. The other is in terms of nutrition. People that you're referring to, people my age and a little younger, maybe, or even certainly older, grew up when there was that whole big thing about fat makes you fat. And so you need to eat Snackwell cookies because they have no fat in them, but they're all full of carbs and additives, right?
Right.
And so to get out of that mindset, like, we have one client who said, I still struggle to add fat to my diet
Mm.
because of that training that I got from the food industries and the commercials and what we were given as choices to eat.
Hmm.
So recognizing that the things that you heard as a young woman and the things that your aunties told you and your mama told you and your best buddies girlfriends told you, that's not always the right way to go. In fact, it's
Hmm.
typically not the right way to go. So to trust the fact that this is not a fad, that having better bone density is critical to stay alive,
Mm.
that having more muscle tissue is critical to stay healthy.
Hmm.
All of those aspects are really important. And you can learn something new. I mean, I obviously am just an example, but you can learn strength training at 60, 62, 65, 55, whatever. It's
85.
85, literally straight up 85. You can do this. This is accessible to everybody. And the one of the, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute. But the point I was going to say is if you have progressive overload, and maybe I'll take just a minute to describe that,
Sure.
because I know you know what that is, but I don't know if your listeners will know what that is. But women might say, "I'm going to be too bulky." Well, we've already talked about that. That is flat out fact. No,
Hmm.
that's not the case. I'm going to get injured, and so, or maybe they have gotten injured because they've had a trainer or they've had a program that hasn't really worked for them. So let me just describe it this way as a former science person with a little scientific information here.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so your body stays in what's called homeostasis. It's just kind of doing its thing, and it's predictable, right? Your brain, your body likes predictability, so every day seems kind of similar. And so the only way you can actually change is if you stimulate it to pay attention more. So we all know what it's like to be caught in having to run for the bus or having to run to the car when it's raining. And so our heart's pounding and we're breathing heavier. Well, that's a stimulus. Well, you don't
Hmm.
want to necessarily have that kind of stimulus, but what you want to have is you want to have a little bit more stimulus that your body and brain are going, wait a minute, I got to pay attention. And so in your workout, you work right at that little bit of the growth edge so that you are getting this little stimulus that says, okay, you need to build more muscle tissue. You need to strengthen your bones. And then the next week, you do the same thing and do a little bit more and just a little bit more. So you're right at the edge of what is going to stimulate you, but it's not so much that it's going to cause you to get injured. And that is
Hmm.
how you can change your body in ways you would have never imagined were possible. And it has nothing to do with dieting, it has everything to do with remodeling your body. And so, you probably saw in the community the other day, I was talking about remodeling your body because some people are like, transformation? I'm not transforming my body. What is it? But if you think about, you ever done a house remodel project and you want to have bigger closets in your house, that's a big win. And so if you
Hmm.
put more muscle tissue on your body, it's more places for blood glucose to go. And so when you
Yeah.
eat, it's not going to turn to fat. It's going to be stored in your muscle tissue. That's such a win. It's such a
Hmm.
win. So it grows your muscle tissue, increases your bone density. It's just, there's nothing like it. As you can see, I'm a big advocate.
That's right. That's great. Well, listen, I don't want to keep any more. We've been here almost an hour. Uh, I just uh, really think that, more. I don't know. Hopefully, this year we'll see even a larger number of women paying attention to messages that you're seeing, that you're saying, that you're putting out, you and your partner Ryan and others, and I just I just am so behind it. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and at the risk of not being weird, Karen, I just want to say, you're kind of a hottie. So, so you keep going.
That's not weird. I thank you. And the point that I have a couple things I want to say before we wrap up, and that is if you chase the way you look, you're not necessarily going to become strong and mobile and flexible.
Hmm.
If you work on your strength and your mobility, inevitably those aesthetics will happen. And it's just such an amazing side effect of this whole way of being, right?
Yes.
So thank you for saying that. And I think about it as a compliment to say I'm doing a good job taking care of my body, right? Strength training and eating correctly. That's that. I also say number two of three things.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to come back and talk some more.
Okay.
I've never at a loss for things to talk about, and talking
Okay.
with you has been so fun.
Okay.
And third, just to say thank you for both taking an interest in women's health and for you being a role model for anybody who's 71. I mean, you have posted videos of what you're doing, and I just so admire
Well,
your
thank you.
tenacity, your skill, your just contributions. It's just wonderful. It's
I
just
just,
wonderful to see that.
and I don't put it out to show off. I'm trying to just be inspirational Because I
Mhm.
convey to people, look, you don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm not saying do what I do. I just want to kind of juice you a little bit and let you know, hey, then maybe you'll get off, and start 10 minutes of moving your body every day,
Right,
you know.
right.
That's really the whole thing. And so,
That's
yeah,
the
but
whole, that's the whole thing is to have visual examples of people who are doing different, right? Because how many people do we know that are 71, 69, like me, 68, and they're in a walker or they're in a wheelchair
oh,
or they're just doing nothing and they're just like they're just going they have retired and they've retired so that they can go to the doctor all the damn time.
oh
That's
man,
crazy. That is just
it is.
nuts.
And I do know you have to be, it helps to be a little fortunate, but there's also a lot of it has to do with the decisions you make.
Oh,
Unless you've had,
yes.
some serious medical issues befall you that were out of your control, that's one thing. But all things being equal, it really boils down to what decisions you're making. So,
Yes, in fact, we have, it sounds a little harsh, and I'm very much a non-harsh person. I'm as supportive as there possibly can be. But I think there's some merit in this point that I have said more than a few times is that decline after 50 is a decision.
mm,
Just what you said. It's about decisions.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Hey, listen, have a great day.
Okay, we'll leave it there. It's been
Yeah.
great, Don.
All right. You take care. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much.